You're working on these massive shows, and obviously Doctor Strange too. You took on this universe that was already pre-established, that's already massive, and you and Jack Schaefer and some of the other creators are responsible for reinventing the wheel, basically, right? You're blowing this universe up even bigger. So how did you and your writers team kind of maintain that intimacy? Because we really got to know Loki quite well in the show, and all the characters actually. So how do you do that when you're dealing with such a massive scale of this universe, and yet you have to focus on these characters?
First off, my writing staff, they were geniuses, and Marvel, Kate here and our director. I mean, I had a great team around me. When we looked at the 6-episode arc as a whole, we broke that like it was a movie, with that kind of accelerated pace and that, epic scope or whatever. But when it came to the episodes themselves, it was very important to me that they felt like great television, which is to say the best episodes of TV to me are like great short stories. It's not a movie. It's not TV either. It's the MCU on Disney Plus. So it's its own thing. So it's just to say we really, it was important to me that every episode stood on its own, was different from the others, and that we made room for the quiet moments. I think with Loki especially, his superpower, especially when you've got an actor as good as Tom Hiddleston, is talking and his dialogue. You want to see Superman fly, well, I want to see Loki talk, and that's the kind of sparring I want to see him do. And so Marvel was very supportive of letting me write, 10, 15-page dialogue scenes, because they understood that these caliber of actors, it was going to be thrilling for the audience.
You had kind of touched upon this on a previous interview where you had spoken about Mad Men being a massive influence as well. When it comes to your dialogue, how do you know when to use these kind of draperesque moments? And actually, coming from Community, it'd be kind of a Winger-esque moment as well.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, man, Jeff Winger would love that. I would love that comparison. Well, it's knowing your character, and it's knowing. So in the case of Loki, it's knowing, well, when is he going to launch into a monologue to try and seize control of a situation, because that's what Don is doing, right? When he waxes philosophic, is he's taking control of a situation that might be otherwise forcing him to be vulnerable or self-reflective in a way that he'd rather not be. And so instead he does what's comfortable for him, which is talking very eloquently. When these animals are backed into corners, that's their defense mechanism, maybe in a way. And so, yeah, you trust your instinct, and you also say, all right, how many of these do I get per episode? I don't want to overwhelm anybody.
Marvel has a lot of faith in you, clearly, because not only do we get to see a season 2, which I'm super excited about, Doctor Strange 2 as well. I know you inherited that script, but there was one thing that I really wanted to touch on, which was, once again, going back to kind of reinventing the wheel. How do you organize your thoughts and go, can I go too big? Is there such a thing as too big? What was the first step in that process for you?
Well, I think you have to be fearless. And I think it's, we started writing the Loki show as Endgame was coming out. And it was like, all right, so, here we are at the conclusion of the Infinity Saga. This is the biggest movie of all time. It's on us to blaze a new trail. And so how do you do that? I think you look to what came before you and you draw inspiration from it, but don't be afraid to take chances, because that's how Marvel got where they are now, was taking chances. So I don't want to do the same stuff that they were doing for the last 10 years. And I don't think that's what Kevin or anybody over there wants to do. You can see they make increasingly bold choices with the stories they're telling. And for me, it's, you just trust your own internal compass. What is what's a story in the MCU that I would be so surprised to see? And I think with Loki, I've said this before. I was like, well, what if the Loki show was the best show anybody saw, and it wasn't just a good superhero show, but it was the best show? That was our approach.
I think it paid off, my friend, because that's definitely top 3 for me easily this year, and I'm sure it tops the list for a lot of people. With that freedom, let's just have a little more fun now. At this point, I know Doctor Strange 2 is in post-production, but you do get the second season of Loki. Multiverse is expanding. What's one character you would want to bring in? Maybe this is a hint as to what we can expect. Or what's one character that you'd love to write for on one of these shows or movies?
It's hard to answer that one without giving anything away. What I love is characters like Mobius, who was in the comics. It wasn't much to him at all. He was, very few appearances, and he was just basically an office worker at the TVA who yelled at the Fantastic Four for breaking the rules. That was an opportunity for me and for our writers and then for Owen, to create, a new beloved character within the MCU. So I get excited for characters that exist in an interesting world and have kind of an interesting place within it, an interesting corner of the comics canon, but maybe there's not such a defined backstory or personality there that it's like I get to be a little more creative with who they are. That's not a specific answer, it's a philosophical one, but
that was a very NDA Disney answer. It was perfect. All right. Okay. So since the Russos have become a big name in the MCU, we've seen Yvette, Jim, Danny, Ken, and Donald all in the MCU. There's still a few community actors out there. You're becoming a big name in the MCU. Who would you want to bring from that show, and what role would they play?
Oh man. I love everybody in that world. It'd be fun to get Harmon in there somewhere. I would love to get Gillian though. She is absolutely a tremendous actor, dramatically, comedically. She's obviously great as Britta, but in Love, what she does is so good. So yeah, I'd love to see Gillian Jacobs in the MCU. I'd just love to see her in anything.
Okay, so last one, Multiverse of Madness. What can you tell us about it? And more importantly, working with guys like Harmon and Raimi, these kind of renegades of narrative. What have you learned from those two? And what can we expect from Doctor Strange 2?
Doctor Strange 2, it's a blast. It's a Sam Raimi movie. That really kind of says it all. And what I've learned from those guys is that, character is everything. All the it's not about spectacle, it's not about the action or it's about Doctor Strange, and that's what matters the most in this movie, and that's Sam's focus always, and that's a good thing.
Thank you so much, Michael, for your time. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to your work in the future for sure.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Real students, thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe to Real School, click that round Real School logo right beside me. Also, click that damn notification bell so you're aware of all of Real School's new content. You can follow me on Twitter, and of course, if you get anything out of Real School, you can always give a little back. Just click the link in the description below or the button down there, and you can become part of my Patreon team.